Dice are rolling, darkness falls. Inside the GM Studios halls. Tabletop games where nightmares creep. In a realm where sanity is lost and weak. Welcome to the abyss where dreams shatter. Inside the GM studio, nothing else matters. Blood and chaos, the dark arts unfold. In the realm of role-playing, where legends are told.
Yes, indeed. Legends are told. They are here inside the GM studio, where we're fielding questions from the internet in our side quest episode. I am your host, David.
I'm Matt.
And we're going to get right at it with the clickety-clack. And I get a 9 this week.
9. Ooh, I have not replaced that one, so I'm going to go to 10.
I'll just re-roll, bro.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
It's always, 19. Oh, did you replace 19? I feel like I got that a couple weeks ago.
I have not replaced 19 yet. Oh, God, I'm the worst.
Keep 15.
15, there we go.
All right.
And here, let's get this out of there. All right. This one comes from, Discord. Stop yelling at me. This one comes from Ball Suitable on our Ass Game Masters with the title, and this one, ooh boy. Anyone find cyberpunk RPGs slow and complicated?
Yes.
There's some truth there. Okay. What do you use to play cyberpunk? Edit? Oh, the shit. I'll get to this in just a little bit here. He lists off a bunch here, like Neon Skies, which is a D6 dice pool that is pretty much just Cyberpunk 2077 or 2020, but with kind of like Shadow One mechanics. Cities Without Numbers, an OSR style, sparse weapons table, fast word hacking, any cities, Neon City Overdrive, which is one that I've never even heard of. Shadow of the Beanstalk, Genesis system, Set City, high sci-fi, Cyberpunk, cyborg hack of specifically cyberpunk setting. So that's Cyborg, the same guys that did Morkborg. It's an OSR D20 based system. Cyber, Karn hack, blah, blah, blah. The Sprawl, PBTA, it sucks, in my own opinion. Neon Black, Forged in the Dark system, not bad. It's pretty good. Deep in the Matrix, yada, yada, yada. He lists off a whole shit ton here of some that I've never even heard of, which I might have to look into. Ooh, this one, Runner in the Shadow, or Heavens on Fire, Lancer. Ugh, no, thank you. For newbies like myself, OSR equals old school Renaissance style, PBTA powered by the Apocalypse, YZE, Year Zero engine. Oh, that makes more sense, okay? FITD, Forged in the Dark. I've been looking for a cyberpunk style RPG for years now. Tried 2020, Red, Cyborg, Shadowrun, etc., and found them all to be too rules crunchy. I finally decided to make some solid rules to turn Cyborg into the ideal cyberpunk experience. Please critique or tell me how you play cyberpunk below. I'm not going to bring up his rules that he created because that would take way too fucking long. Here's the basics. 5 stats, limited inventory slots, 6 plus strength. This way, Dave, you should be able to at least kind of know what's going on here because, like I said, it's an OSR style. So it's the 6 attributes. Same as working with D&D. 5 stats, limited inventory slots, 6 plus strength, gain XP, aka street cred, for gigs. Each piece of cyberware you have increases your glitch score, which increases your chance for cyber psychosis. Some classes, subclasses, drugs, or cyberware abilities also increase your glitch score. I'm guessing your glitch score is like a save that you have to make in order to overcome cyber psychosis, which in the cyberpunk universe, like Cyberpunk Red in 2020, is when you finally have so much cyberware in your body that you just become way more machine than man, and you become a zombie, pretty much. Yeah. This is a good question. because this is what I always bring up when people ask me, when I talk about how much I love Shadowrun, and people ask me, it's just like, oh, is it easy to play? I'm like, no, I have
No.
never played a single Cyberpunk game that is easy to play. Are they all fun? To me, yes, they're a ton of fun because I love that sort of stuff. I like taking the little pieces, the weapons, the cyberware, the data, the gizmos, and using it and having them all have mechanics in the game that I really enjoy playing with. But it's just like every other role-playing game. And I know David and I have talked about this before, that up front, it looks super complicated. I thought the same thing. Fuck, the player's handbook for Shadowrun 5th edition is damn near 3 times the size of the Dungeons and Dragons player's handbook. But Shadowrun is notorious for fluff in their books. There's a lot of lore to Shadowrun, and that's why people really like Shadowrun, is because of the lore. The rules are not that bad. As soon as you start reading them, they start to flow really well. As long as you can get over how Catalyst lays out their books, you can figure it out pretty good. But yes, this is what I will tell everybody that always asks me about playing in a cyberpunk setting or a cyberpunk system. When you first look at it, does not look easy, and in reality, it's not. But as soon as you get into it and you start reading more and more, it becomes almost second nature. And especially if you've been a role player in the past and you've read many other handbooks, you know what you're looking at. Pretty much. You know the vernacular, you know what to look for when you're looking up in the index. But when it comes to those that have not looked over a lot of cyberpunk games, like David, when I first brought up that we should play some Shadowrun, and I did a one-shot for us, you picked up on it pretty well, because you've obviously been playing D&D and a few other games, and hell, Vampire, their system is very identical to Shadowrun, with small little differences other than being D6s and D10s. Same way to roll, though. But what did you think when you first started even looking into a cyberpunk game?
Yeah, I feel like for long-time listeners of this show, or listeners that listen with frequency, there's probably something that needs to be delineated, especially because we've on this show talked about Shadowrun being a crunchy game previously, and you have said that you love it, but you've also said that you don't like crunchy games, and but here's what I suspect is worth delineating. To me, a game on the relative scale of crunch, Shadowrun's not really much more complicated than Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And the crunchiest of games are not hierarchical. And so Shadowrun is crunchy, if by which you mean has a lot of rules, but as you noted, they kind of build on top of each other.
Yes.
Right? They're just like little modifier. Like you might have 8 modifiers that go into something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it doesn't do is do what a lot of other really crunchy games, which is create a web that have like interconnectivity where rules reference other rules and there's synergy, and you basically need to know all of the rules and how they interact with one another. So Shadowrun is not crunchy in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hierarchically.
Can I tell you my definition of crunchy games?
Sure.
So Shadowrun, like you said, is kind of more on top of each other. It's a module. It has mods in it.
Yes.
So you have your first pool. Say your ability plus your skill for shooting a gun is a total of 6 dice, 6d6. Now your weapon has a scope on it. That's it's a smart link to your cyber eye. Your cyber eye gives you 1 more die. Your scope gives you 2 more dice. You throw those in the pool. You roll it. 5 or 6s is a hit. You count up your hits. Make sure that you don't glitch, which is more 1s than successes. And that's all you do. Then person rolls for defense. Crunchy games, on the other hand, is like Rollmaster or GURPS. GURPS specifically, I want to love GURPS a lot because I think it's a fantastic game. But when you roll 3d6, you try to get under a certain number, but you're 200 yards away with your rifle. So that's automatically your target number is times 0.35
Yes.
because it's that far away. But your scope takes away 0.15 times that.
It's yeah, you're describing exactly what I was
Yeah.
describing, but with different verbiage.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a way of saying that like a game that like there's probably just not a way to delineate what Shadowrun is. It has a few core mechanics, and lots of things might modify those core mechanics, but crunchy games like basically create exceptions. It's like, okay, you roll this dice for this attack, except under these circumstances it would go against Y. And then if your distance from the character, from the enemy, and the type of weapon that you're using both apply different things. It's like that's that's a giant web of things that interact. Shadowrun is more like 4th edition D&D, where it's like you get tons of little feats that boost basically just a few things, and they just kind of layer over the top
Yep.
of
They
of
just make
one
that
another.
dice pool bigger.
Yeah, or modify it in some way. So anyway, that was probably worth getting out of the way. That said, though, I find it peculiar that somebody is kind of gravitating toward a cyberpunk genre that doesn't want at least some semblance of that. Because to me, a lot of the things that are in like the cyberpunk world are just that. They're mods and their gear and their all these things. And so it seems weird to me that you would want something that was more pared back. But maybe what he needs to do is gravitate towards systems that aren't that web and are more like the tower. And so, but if he doesn't like Shadowrun, I can't really think. I mean, other than maybe like Savage, playing Savage Shadowrun, which would be more simplified. But I, I'm, Shadowrun's rules fit it pretty well, which is part of the reason that it's good. And once you know it, it's not laborious. It doesn't take long to kind of, you can still have like quick encounters and stuff, even though it's not a rules light system. It's just there's just a longer learning curve on it. Some crunchy games are more like Warhammer or something. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just like all these interacting things, and it's much more. It's almost like much more strategic, or it's like an exercise in numbers crunching and like stuff like that. So don't just assume because there's lots of modifiers that necessarily makes the rules crunchy, just because they're how sophisticated each of those numbers is and how long it takes to calculate under what situations is what's relevant. So what I would have liked him to illuminate for us is what is appealing about
Yeah.
a cyberpunk game to him, because to me they're part and parcel. People that like cyberpunk are more likely to like crunchy games, and so same thing with people that like OSRs. People that like OSRs just tend to like crunchier rule sets. And that's part of the appeal. But he's saying that he likes cyberpunk, but he's not saying what he likes about it, because he's saying that like basically OSRs aren't. I mean, maybe he wants like kind of the kind of basic formula for an OSR without too many modifications and stuff. And so the rules that he lays out there seem like they probably can achieve that okay. But my thoughts about people just trying to like like jury rig some sort of system for a game. There's going to be lots of complications in there that I think he doesn't anticipate, especially because a cyberpunk world has more varied elements to it, right? Cyberpunk, you have to consider things about like machines, and you also typically have to, in some versions, have to consider things like magic. And so it's like there's magic, there's machines, there's hacking, there's vehicles, there's melee combat often, there's investigation, and it's like this is the reason a lot of these games end up being so crunchy, is that they have to have rule sets for each element of that game. When you just exist in a fantasy world, there's a magic mechanic and like a melee and ranged attack mechanic. And then like maybe some other ones that are more sophisticated get into rules for siege battles, or they get in ship to ship battles, or they get into, you know, mounted combat. Like D&D didn't fuck around with any of that shit. There's no
Yeah.
mechanics for that stuff. It's just like, I don't know, dude, just figure it out. Like, um and so the more variance you have in the world, the more mechanics you need to address that. And so in my head, when you like a cyberpunk world, you like a variety of different scenarios um, that are fantastical. And consequently, it seems like you would want a rule set that goes along with them to try to streamline a rule set that's a through thread for all of those situations. Shadowrun probably comes the closest.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you now with the don't try to kind of squish another system into one that's a little bit rules lighter.
Hmm.
Luckily, there is a Shadowrun hack for Savage Worlds, which I did with my work group. We did play that for quite a while. That's what we started with, was Savage Worlds, and it worked really well. But that's when I was also getting into ICRPG, and there's the cyberpunk setting for that. So I was like, let's try this out for a little while and see how it works. I didn't like it because it was such a rules light OSR style game. I like the way that the effort dice work, especially for hacking, and for like social scenes. Just because I like you roll an attack, and if you hit, say you're trying to, in a social scene, trying to communicate something to somebody, you would roll your basic, unless you had something that said for speech, roll that die, and it works kind of like damage towards the threshold that you're trying to hit for that opponent. I really like that, because then making adversaries and making obstacles was really easy, where in Savage Worlds, I would still have to prepare a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why I wanted to try ICRPG, Index Card Role-Playing Game. But as soon as we got into it, I was like, this has the skin of Shadowrun, but it doesn't feel like Shadowrun.
Yeah, because again, it's kind of to the point about sophistication. Look, I'm not bagging on crunchy games or on rules light games, but they both serve purposes.
Yep.
And the purpose of a game having a lot of rules is sophistication, and the purpose of a game having few rules is simplicity and pacing, right? Like if you can just hack into a terminal, like with just one roll of the die, it's just like boom, you did that. And now you get access to the information, you learn this, on to the next scene, right? That's very simple. So the plot moves along quickly, your characters don't have to, you know, do a bunch of maths in order to like figure things out. They don't have to navigate. But in a cyberpunk world, like hacking a system is often like an encounter, right? Like
Yeah.
you're
It takes
wading into
time.
there might be some sort of like like situation where you're like
Yeah,
actually
antiviruses you got to get through.
right. And so that requires lots of layers of rules if you wanted to have that hacking into the system have higher drama, because it requires more skill and sophistication and planning, and it plays out like a whole, like, you know, half hour of a session or something. Then that's going to be what you want, in the same way that plenty of things like with travel, right? Like some games, like I'm sure if you were playing like a Mad Max RPG, what sort of mechanics govern what the vehicles do is going to be very important, because they're just always driving around the wasteland and shit. It's like the whole premise of the thing. And you wouldn't want to handle it like the way, just like basic movement or whatever. Like you'd have all sorts of different things for like armor on your car, and like the weapons and the speed and the agility and like all of this stuff. But you know, when you're playing VTM, you're just like, I don't know, dude, you're in a sports car, it goes fast, right? You're in a sedan, it's not that fast, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it has like a maneuverability score maybe in a top speed, but you're not really getting into a lot of car chases. And if you do, you just kind of handle it with your drive skills simply enough, you know. And
Yeah.
so that's like, probably think through what are the things that he should think through the things that he likes about a cyberpunk. And there's probably already a game out there that accomplishes it, and maybe he's just getting a little intimidated, because first of all, if he listed that many games, he did not read all those books. He does not know all those mechanics. He probably just looked at it and was like, oh, this is a lot, especially because, like you said, they tend to stuff a bunch of lore in in
Yeah.
cyberpunk games even more. And when you really get down to the core of the rules mechanics, some of them are on par with D&D or Savage Worlds, just for different things. And I would suspect that his reason is not so much a complexity one, because again, some of these rule sets are not any more complex than Savage Worlds or D&D.
Mhm.
It's a lack of familiarity with the way they work. They're so different from like an OSR game, or they're so different from like basic D&D, Pathfinder, whatever, that he just doesn't know how to wrap his head around learning a new system. We had this problem anytime you try, someone comes over from D&D and D and you're trying to like for the VTM system especially, or any dice pool system, you come from D&D and D and you're just like, wait, what is this? Like, how do I, what? Like, oh, how? It's like, dude, it's not that confusing. It's just stop thinking that it's gonna like map onto Dungeons and Dragons and you'll be fine. Like, just learn it new. And that's kind of a pain sometimes to learn new shit. You want to do something that's familiar, but I promise you, you try to cobble something together, and role playing games take years to like play testing and like tinkering to work seamlessly. You're gonna have less of a good time in your cyberpunk game if you try to stitch the rules together.
Here it says, and yeah, I'm guessing he put this in here to let us know. He says, "Here is my list I've skimmed through, according, all those systems that he listed out."
Skim, yeah.
Skimming, yeah, it doesn't work so well with Cyberpunk if you don't know the system that you're looking at. He does go on at the beginning here when I was talking about that edit that he put in there. After thanking people for some game suggestions, he does say that he is a big enjoyer of the cyberpunk genre and has never really looked deep into the RPGs. And that is where, yeah, that's where he's going to go wrong. It seems like he is a fan of OSR and a little bit more rules light systems. So if anybody out there is thinking about it, I will say in here, some people put in some really good suggestions in here, as well as Shadowrun Anarchy, which is their rules light system. I actually played it with David and Patrick, and I think there was one other person that we played it with fucking years ago.
Matt Moore, maybe?
Maybe. Either way, it's an all right one. It's a lot. It has a lot more narrative mechanics than physical mechanics, which it wasn't exactly up my my alley. But for a nice one shot here and there, it's really good.
Yeah.
Other than that, one of the draws to cyberpunk games is that all the mods, the gadgets and the toys that you get to play with. It's when the roles do get weird. Like even in Cyberpunk Red, I really enjoy Cyberpunk Red. But what I don't like is the target number to hit your target if you're firing at them. It changes by distance. So your weapon using whatever, and the ammo that you're using gives you that if you are firing at, into about 60 meters, your target number will be this. But if you're shooting at 15 meters, then it'll be a lot less. And I'm just like, man, fuck you. I don't want to do this math.
I just don't like things that have counter-indicated sliders. This thing gives a bonus, and this thing gives a penalty. And then this thing gives a bonus, and then this thing gives a penalty. It's like that just gets too. You're having to add and subtract things.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to like get to a net thing, and it's like if this isn't a scenario you do frequently, right? Like embed that in your character's attack roll. Okay, I'm fighting two-handed with weapons. I get a penalty for my offhand here on this attack, and then if I make a second attack, then I get, but I get a bonus to my defense. And then you just bake it all in, and then anytime you go to attack, you know what the total number is. But if you're going like, oh, I'm gonna take aim at him, and it's like, well, he's at mid distance. You go, okay, so it's mid distance for here with it, but I got this new ammunition, and it's like it's too much. But yeah, I'm with you. Like it seems like he's a fan of like movies and books that are cyberpunk, and he's also a fan of role-playing games, and so he assumes that he's a fan of cyberpunk role-playing games, but he might not be. Certain genres just don't like. We've done this with. I think this is the problem we always had with Star Wars games. We like Star Wars and we like role playing games.
Yeah,
but we don't really like Star Wars role playing
not
games.
really.
Not really. It's kind of a bummer, but it seems like it should be. But the proper format for it is a film, and that's just kind of the way it goes. Maybe books, comics, but um,
That's what I
and
was. That's why I said ew when I said Shadow of the Beanstalk. I could be wrong, because I can't remember if Genesis is the one or not. But I think Genesis, the Genesis system, which he said here, Shadow of the Beanstalk is the Genesis system, is that Star Wars, the
mm,
narrative dice system.
the proprietary dice, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Fucking
that's
gross.
yeah. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here. I'm not really. He doesn't seem like he's played these games before, and he wants them to capture something about that genre that he likes without getting into the weeds. And I would posit that I mean, if he's played OSRs, then by comparison, I mean, like, second edition D&D and like, other OSRs are typically like a little crunchier even than D&D. So if he's familiar with that, I think he can find a game that suits those sensibilities, but maybe he's just wanting it to be too much like a medieval fantasy OSR, and he's just trying to like shoehorn on cyberpunk stuff, and that's not going to work. It's
Yeah.
just not going to work very well.
Yeah. My final thought. I'm not even going to read any of these comments because there's only 4 of them, and they're all just talking about other systems for him to try. Uh, so I would say if you want, if you don't want to deal with all the rules up front, sure, I suggest trying Savage Worlds. It's a little less crunchy in certain ways, but it could be a lot. It's a lot more math in your head. Um, but I say give it a shot first. Try Cyberpunk Red or try Shadowrun at the table and see what the players think first. You don't have to do every single rule at first. Like you don't have to do the grenade rules right out the box. That one is for later when you start dealing with it. If your player is playing a rigger and all of a sudden you got to start,
Oh, hey, bro, you can't say that on the
I
show.
get that every single time. If he's playing a rigger, which is a driver that can jack into the car and pretty much his mind just or the car becomes him, they are one. You don't have to use all the rules right off the bat. It's very simple to just start. With hacking, you have your decker that has his regular pool, like I said before, which would be like, say, an intelligence versus cracking. So, say you got 7 dice there. His cyber deck is a rating 3 cyber deck. Rating 3 means you add 3 dice to the pool. Target number never changes. It's always 5 and 6 are hits. Ones are, add up to a glitch. But it's pretty simple. All you got to do is remember ratings and just add that many dice into your pool. Work on hits. Usually 3 hits is a complete success. That's all you really got to worry about.
Yeah, you could. I think Matt's onto something there, which is like, look, try a system out, and if you're not familiar with the entire rule set, because some of the areas are a little, I don't know, beyond your immediate ease of comprehension, then all you do is you just go, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create characters for the party. I'm going to give them pre-gen characters, ones that are classes and have abilities and use things that the rule sets are familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to put the party in situations where you're comfortable with the rule sets. You're not comfortable with the hacking mechanic. You're not comfortable with the vehicles mechanic. Just create a scenario where they're just sneaking into a lab and there's just guns and melee and maybe a little bit of like tech. That can work fine. I did it with Barbarians of Lemuria. Like, I didn't really want to teach the party and wrap my head around siege battles and ship to ship battles. Those are mechanics in Barbarians of Lemuria, and they're actually pretty good mechanics now that I understand them. But I was just like, look, here's the way it is. Or like, for instance, if you were playing D&D and you just weren't comfortable with the spell slot mechanic, you just didn't really understand how magic worked. It's like, well, then just, give the party, pre-gen characters, a rogue, a fighter, and a barbarian, and then put them in a dungeon crawl that doesn't have any bad guys that cast magic. They're just fighting goblins and bugbears. you can do that. It's pretty easy to do. You just have to kind of take a little bit more control from the players of their ability to create their own characters and stuff. I mean, even yeah, Barbarians of Lemur even has a magic mechanic. I'm pretty sure. I just was like, I'm not using that. I was like, I'm not gonna use it. I don't want it, and so it's probably a good tactic.
For all of you out there, this will be my final closing remark. If you are really comfortable with D&D, this is what you know, especially 5th edition. Check out Carbon 2185 by Dragon Turtle Games. Yes, it's a completely fleshed out cyberpunk RPG with the D&D 5th edition rules, mechanics, everything you already know. And I have looked through the book. I've read through the book. It's really well done. It's a great cyberpunk game. It does add some stuff to it, but it's something that, just like using magic items or learning a new armor to put on, it's very simple stuff. But do you have anything to close on there, David?
No, that was my final thoughts.
Awesome. All right. Well, then we'll just leave this one with a